Think that it's very easy, it seems, to get lost in this spiritual world. You know, there's lots of dead ends, there's lots of potential dead ends, and there's I would say the personality also is happy to get lost because it doesn't want to go all the way, you know. So it's happy to adopt a spiritual personality and hide there. Now, I'm not saying that's conscious in any way, but that, you know, there's plenty of books out of people who follow Amma or whoever, you know, and kind of got lost in someone else's story, and it didn't deliver them to their own fruition, as it were. And, you know, in the book, I have a chapter about this and cults and how it's easy for this whole thing to derail and go wrong, and for spiritual personalities to live out their, you know, their fucked upness, basically, and other people to be pulled into it. So it's a lesson from both sides. I mean, the teacher, I would say, mostly never learns because that's their psychology, they're narcissistic, whatever. But the students often either don't learn and stay in it for ages, or have a kind of revelation and it teaches them a big thing that moves them forward, and they get expelled or they leave, and then they go deeper beyond that level. It's a kind of childish level, you know, in a way, to see someone as a parental figure like that. Is that being hard? I don't know.
Agree totally.
Yeah.
Even here the experience was like this, not for decades, for 2 or 3 years maybe. Yeah, I was out of nowhere, something pulled me towards something. I was seeking something. I didn't know what I was seeking for. Maybe
Yeah.
for everyone it's like this. I'm not so unique. No one is so unique. So I was looking for something, and a video pops up in YouTube in a particular teacher, guru, and I was drawn by this. Eventually leads me to I visit one in person, one retreat, and then with some friends we create a group. And I see now that this is also is something like you hold on for, because I have a group now. You see, we make gatherings and something is happening here, and but this also dropped.
Yeah.
I like when you say childish. Yeah, in a way it's childish.
Yeah, I mean,
it's sweet.
Yeah, but what we're talking about is, you know, it's what it is. It's fine, and you get lost, and people take advantage of you or whatever.
And then you stop, or when it stops when it stops. No one.
Yeah, but I would say that this does take a kind of maturity in this area, and I think, you know, what's at the heart of that? The heart of that is realizing you know, you're on your own. Nobody else can do it for you. So that's, I think, a real relationship between a teacher and a student is a very sacred thing. But I mean, only if it's between someone who's had the shift and the student. Otherwise, it can become the opposite, become hellish and manipulative, obviously, because there's so many opportunities. It's just built for that, for a narcissistic type. But if that isn't operating, something very special can happen, and it takes enormous trust and honesty and integrity, and I'm not talking about an integrity, you know, I would say in the shift, integrity is part of it. It's not something you do, it's just because you don't lie to yourself, you can't lie to others, you know. So the idea of taking advantage of someone, it just wouldn't arise, because so this is what I mean by maturity. This journey takes maturity, because you have to look with honesty at what this is and what your life is, what your personality is. And that takes honesty, like, so you're not fooling yourself. This is what I mean by choiceless awareness. It's looking the personality wants to look away from what it doesn't want to see to maintain its world and its dream. So this dream of the personality has to be kind of, the spell of it has to be broken. And what breaks it is seeing with a capital S. That's choiceless awareness. So choiceless awareness doesn't choose what it wants to look at. It will look at whatever is in front of it. And we come with this when we're kids. And waking up involves, I was going to say learning. You don't really learn it. You just kind of wake it up in you. And that light of that awareness falls on this story and this person. And it's like that's a certain maturity in that, because then it also takes balls, because you'll see things you don't want to see. It's hard. You can't go into spiritual fantasies to escape the hard bits. You face the hard bits, you know. And who said there shouldn't be hard bits? That's life, right? You know. So it takes a certain maturity, I think. And when I see that end of spirituality, it does seem quite childish in a way, you know, because otherwise you wouldn't know. The teacher should be teaching these things. The teacher shouldn't be creating dependency. It should be the opposite. It should be the opposite. Because the opposite is what waking up is. So,
Totally,
yeah.
totally agree. Absolutely, yeah. There is a saying that is coming in my mind, like when the student is ready, the teacher appears. The second part is even more important. I don't know, important maybe. When the student is really, really ready, the teacher disappears.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Did you come up with that?
Um, I don't
You
know.
don't know.
Maybe in a way, yeah.
I don't think the teacher has to disappear, but he may disappear in that role. Because if the role is served its purpose, it's like once the birth has happened, the midwife is not needed in that role, but she still may stay around as a friend. You see what I mean?
Yeah,
So
true, absolutely true. And something more is coming, like you just stop seeing someone as out, like there is no authority, there is no superiority. Look, he or
yeah,
she, where is he or where is she, and where am I? There's
yeah.
there's nothing like this anymore. It's just
But the thing is, Luchana, it's like, once again, I'm always looking at the opposites and the full picture. And there can be a kind of authority. And in a sense there is, because if the shift has happened, you are seeing life in a certain way. And if it hasn't happened, you're not seeing it in that way. So on this subject alone, there is a kind of authority. So the thing is not that there isn't an authority, and like if someone knows more than me on whatever it is, I'll bow down to it. It's not really the person, it's the knowledge that is known. And I think in this relationship, that's why trust is so important, because there is a bowing down to, there's nothing wrong with authority. It just means somebody knows something. And if you don't know something, you shouldn't be teaching. So a lot of people say, oh, I'm not a teacher, I'm not a teacher. It's like, well, I am a teacher. I have to accept that. But I don't have the claims that people put on that. I'm fulfilling that role, but I know it's not me. And I'm not being disingenuous or anything. It's just that's part of what the shift is, part of what the shift knows, you know. I do have something to share. And like I said, if I didn't, I shouldn't be in this role. So I acknowledge that. And if somebody comes and they're ready, they acknowledge that too. And because they acknowledge it and they open to it, something can happen. Now, if somebody fought that, they wouldn't be able to use it, you see. But of course, that whole sacred dynamic has been screwed up by people taking this role, but then abusing it. Because there's so much trust needed in that, okay, you're coming to me, you have to open to certain things, but I'm not going to abuse your openness. My only function here is to help you see this.
what would you say to those who are seeking? There are people who will watch this video maybe, and some of them are still seeking something. They're not content with what they are having at the moment, to say something to those.
The seeking that can come from the personality, right? And that seeking that makes the personality feel comfortable and safe. So as we touched on earlier, you could be a kind of follower of a guru, and that's a kind of seeking, and you're stuck in it, and you're actually stagnating. You're not finding your own understanding of it. So that's the kind of expression of seeking that's going nowhere, that's giving someone else authority. And that's why seeking gets a bad name for things like that. But there's seeking, which is really the expression of the yearning, what I would call the yearning, which is the heartfelt feeling of wanting to come home and return to what we knew as children. So for me, that's utterly an intelligent thing to do. If you want something and you know it's there, you don't know how it's there, you don't know why you know, but you feel and you trust that, then to seek it is a natural thing to do. So I think seeking gets a very bad name for those reasons. But seeking with that adult attitude is a necessary part to finding. Now, I know it's got a bad name also because I suppose I'm expounding on what I said earlier, that seeking can be the avoidance of finding. Like, I get that. So it's got a bad name. But once again, I feel with these things, you have to dig down to what's in the relative level, what's really going on here. There's a time when you need to find out things. You know, if you don't want to just rely on a kind of opening happening by chance, if you want to really return to this, there is a kind of journey to find it. And if you can find someone who can help you do that, you know, you could call it seeking if you want, I suppose. But that's, to me, the real seeking. Yeah. But it's funny how it's got a bad name, hasn't it? It's really become a dirty word now. I'll give up seeking. Well, yeah, give up seeking when you're found. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly don't seek. I certainly don't seek. That's for sure. But I would be if this hadn't happened. And I did. I did everything I could. I did everything I could. I mean, throughout the breakdown, throughout my life, I wrote. So whatever was happening, or if I had an opening or something bad happen, my way of inquiry was through writing. What does this mean? Why did I feel that? Why did that upset me so much? Why? I've had this feeling before. Where did that come from? And there's this thing that you start to see the whole story of your life, and there's a sort of objectivity to it, and that's the choiceless awareness kind of doing its job, really. But yeah, I was seeking, yeah. But you see, when the breakdown happened for me, I left that world totally, not because I'd found, but because I was dealing with this breakdown and I was trying to survive. It became irrelevant, really. You know, none of it, well, I can't say none of it helped me, but I just left that world. So after I wrote my books, I'd been out of this world for many years. I didn't know what people were reading, what teachers were out there, what was happening. My world was, you know, Osho and Darfi John and Krishnamurti and Uji Krishnamurti a bit, and the old guys, you know. So it's funny, when the books came out, I had to kind of tiptoe back into the woods. What's happening out there? And it's interesting how it's changed. Yeah. So seeking.
Yeah, that was the most beautiful description of seeking that I've ever heard.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a beautiful way.
I think we have to honor seeking in the right, you know, this is why I was thinking I don't really fit on this channel, because
it became a bad word, you know, seeker or seeking.
Yeah, yes, it really has. Yeah. And this is part of the new landscape. It didn't used to be like that. Yeah. And some of what's come in this new landscape is good. You know, a lot of it's informed by you know, what I would call the absolutists and the Tony Parsonsists and all of that. So some of it's got, you know, truth in it, but it's also kind of morphed into something like a monster, I think, this non-duality thing. I think people get very confused with it. And I understand that. Yeah.
Yeah.